Covering Dunkirk, Fredonia, and all of northern Chautauqua County, this is WCVF 88.9 FM, The Voice.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Big Blue Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Volz, a freshman here at SUNY Fredonia. Got a good show planned for you today, of course, talking about some Fredonia sports, just getting back, spring sports in the swing of thing, just getting back from the exhibition games down in Florida, that being the baseball, softball, and lacrosse teams. Track and field still has about a week before they get started. I think it's about a week and a half. It's a week from Friday is when they start their season, if I am correct on those dates. Also want to talk Buffalo Sabres. Another tough loss, which leaves me wondering, will I ever be able to have this show where I'm not coming on the air mad at the Sabres because they had an abysmal night on Tuesday night, because it's happened like 5 times this season, I swear. And then the big part of the show today, obviously with March Madness in full swing, I did not get a chance to make my bracket before the tournament started because, of course, last week the Fredonia students were on spring break. So I have the physical copy of my March Madness bracket and all of its red X's and crossed out glory. It might be one of the worst brackets I've ever had. I'm being completely serious. This is one of the worst March Madness brackets I have ever had. So later on in the show, I'm going to go through who I originally thought would be still in the tournament at this point, and most of those teams are not, as 3 of my Final Four teams are out. Seriously, 3 of my Final Four teams are gone. The only one who is still in it is Houston, who I picked to win the national championship. So on ESPN Tournament Challenge, if you have that app, there's something that you can do. It's after the first and second round. They come out with a second chance kind of game, challenge, contest, whatever. And basically, you pick your bracket starting from the Sweet 16. So I'm going to do that for both the men's and women's tournaments, as I guess my men's bracket isn't completely busted because my national champion is still in it, but just about everybody else has been knocked out. My women's bracket, though, my national champion is gone. I really thought that Indiana was going to win the title this year, and I was unfortunately wrong. So I'm going to do the second chance bracket for both the men's and the women's later on in the show. But first, I wanted to talk about some Fredonia sports. So as I mentioned earlier, the lacrosse, baseball, and softball teams are getting back from their spring games down in Florida. And the women's lacrosse team is off to a very good start. They're 5-2. Most recently, last Thursday, they had a game down in Panama City, Florida, where they defeated Ohio Northern University 18-3. 18-3. They led 12-2 at halftime, did not allow a goal in the entire fourth quarter. Aaron Woods with 6 goals, and Julie Culver had 4. So the Blue Devils, they got off to an unbelievable start in this game. Obviously, anytime you win 18-3, you've got to get off to somewhat of a hot start. And that was that was the second game when they were down in Florida. The first game, they had a tough loss, 19-14. They fell to the Nazareth Golden Flyers. They are actually in action today at 5 o'clock up at Medaille University in Buffalo. They'll be back at home this Saturday for a 1 p.m. tilt with SUNY Oneonta in what will be their first SUNYAC matchup of the season. So out-of-conference play ends after the game today against Medaille, and then it's all conference teams for the women's lacrosse team from here on out. The baseball team also just got back from down in Florida. They will be back in action on Sunday at 1 p.m. as they head down to Greenville, Pennsylvania to take on Thiel. Their home opener, as they were down in Florida, they had a couple of road exhibition games too. Down in their home opener next Tuesday at 4 o'clock when they host the Nittany Lions of Penn State Barron. And then they've only got a few non-SUNYAC games after that. So it's not completely SUNYAC games after next Tuesday, but it's mostly SUNYAC games. Fredonia State's baseball team at 4-8. They had a tough loss. They had a doubleheader this past Sunday down in Florida against Williams College. Lost the first game 7-1, and the second game was a close one, an 8-7 loss for them. For the softball team, they're getting back from Florida as well. They will be in action a week from tomorrow as they host Penn State Barron in a doubleheader starting at 3 o'clock on Thursday, March 30th. And then a few other games, and we get into mostly SUNYAC play. Their most recent contest was last Friday, a 7-4 win over McAllister College down in Clermont, Florida. And that was actually the softball team's first win of the season, so they got off to an 0-11 start. However, they are in the win column with last Friday's win, and will hopefully be able to improve on that record as they've got 4, 5, 6 straight home matchups, starting with that Thursday game against Penn State Barron. They're all double headers, so technically 12 straight home matchups. Good opportunity for the Fredonia State softball team to really kind of get in the swing of things, pardon my pun, of course, and get rolling with the season. And as I mentioned, of course, the track and field team, they have not gotten started just yet. Their first meet is, next week. So next week, Friday, March 31st, and Saturday, April 1st, a SUNYAC meet up in Geneseo. So that's a look at your Fredonia sports. I'll take a quick break and then come back and talk Buffalo Sabres. And I'm sure every single Sabres fan's listening is saying, no, please don't. I don't want to think about what I saw on the ice last night. But we really got to talk about it as, of course, for anybody who didn't watch the game, I don't blame you because I had to turn it off as well. And that's the other thing. I want to get this in before I go. I literally never turn off Sabres games. Never. I watch in any games. I never watch games. I can remember Josh Allen's rookie year for the Bills, their first game of the season. They lost like 47-3 or something like that. And I was still sitting in the living room. They're down by 44 points against the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm still in my living room watching every single play of this game. My mom's like, why do you do this to yourself? Like, why? Like, the game is over. Just turn it off. I can't do it. I never turn games off. But last night I had to. It got to be, I think it was when it was 5-1. I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't do it. I absolutely had to turn the game off, and I didn't watch the rest of the game. They end up losing, 7-3? I'll take a look at that after we come back. Well, thanks for tuning in to Big Blue Sports Podcast. Be back in just a couple of minutes. Should be a great show. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon.
Staircase on the sand, and this is how I step up to the dance. Floating through a wicked storm, I'm headed for your shore. On the boat that won't sink, holding on to both oars. Doing time, what's my crime? Standing in your line, or is it my turn now? I think I'll break it down somehow. So shake your head and take your bets, 'cause this ain't over yet. I don't care if I burn my desire. Oh, it's only fire. It's only fire. Stars that guide me on my way never see the light of day. The night is long, but this night is mine. And all the pain that led you there, to that island bound times, floating through wicked storm and headed for your shore. On a boat that won't sink, holding on to both arms. But doing time, what's my crime? Standing in your line, always with my turn now. I think I'm breaking down somehow. So shake your head and take your bets, 'cause this ain't over yet. I don't care if I burn, if I decide, oh, it's over.
So the Sabres last night. I don't even know that I have the proper vocabulary to go into what went wrong last night. I mean, it was purely a disaster. It was a through and through, start to finish disaster. Yet again. And I'll be 100% honest. I don't even know that I want to go into the specifics of what happened in the game. I mean, Sabres fans, you watched the game last night. I mean, you look at the final score, it's 7-3. I get it. They're young, developing, and I got a whole thing about that in my mind. But everyone wants to say that, oh, they're young, they're developing, whatever. They've lost 8 of their last 9 games, and in the last 2 games, they've been outscored 14-3. Both of those games at home, by the way. When you lose 14-3, combined between 2 games, 7-0 and 7-3 at home. And it just continues to define their home struggle. They're 13-20-3 at home this year. There is no reason that a team whose record is still technically above NHL 500 at 33-31-6, no reason why they should be that bad at home. And it gets to this point where it is so ridiculous. I mean, when I was writing my notes for the show today, I literally wrote down the words embarrassing performance. I turned the game off because I was absolutely done. And this just further brings about the issue of people saying, well, they're young, they're developing, they'll learn, yada, yada, yada. Okay, sure, that's fair. I get it. They're young, they're going to make mistakes. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's definitely true. But at the same time, how long are we going to just use that and then not expect things to get any better? You've got a fan base who has been sitting here for 12 years waiting for the team to be competitive. Waiting for 12 years for this team to be remotely competitive. And this season is the best year the Sabres have had since 2011. I don't think that there's even a question. The fact that, I get it, you're a young developing team, but the fact that a potential playoff spot and an end to this just ridiculous drought that we've been sitting through, which, by the way, is the longest in NHL history for anybody who didn't know. The fact that we are still sitting here and saying that, well, it wasn't supposed to be a playoff season, so I guess it's okay. A collapse, like, they've lost 8 of 9. I get it. You look at the overall record, 33-31-6. And if somebody would have told me in, let's say, September, that the Sabres on March 22nd would be 33-31-6, I'd be like, hey, awesome. I'll take it. Development looks good. And I'm not upset. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Sabres are terrible. No, they're not. But what I am going to sit here and say is that they should not be losing 8 of 9 games when the talent and competitiveness has been there for so much of this season. A collapse like this shouldn't happen. And it's not just on one particular player or whatever. I know that sometimes fans like to, they harp on one player. Middlestat's been on the receiving end of that. Victor Olofsson's been on the receiving end. Jacob Bryson, whoever. It's not just one player. When your forwards cannot score, your defensemen can't defend, and none of your goaltenders can make a save, that's a problem. That's a team problem. And that's exactly what we've run into the last couple of games. It's no secret that defensively, the Sabres have been horrible this season. That is truly offensively, they've been one of the best teams in the NHL this year. I think so. Defensively, horrible. Have you seen their penalty kill? Has anybody seen their penalty kill? They have one of the worst penalty kills in the league. Because you've got guys that stand around puck watching. Nobody covers the front of the net. So opposing power plays can just get one of their big forwards to stand alone in front of the net and screen the Sabres goaltender. And whoever's in net probably can't make a save anyways. I mean, this is not... I get it that they're young and they're developing. But would it have killed the front office to at least make some sort of commitment to winning this year? Because you've got fans who have sat through this nonsense for more than a decade. And while, yes, things are looking up in the big picture, that's not selling with a lot of these fans. Because we've been sold this line before that, better days are just around the corner. They're going to get better soon. Just be patient. Just wait. Yep, okay. So we were patient and waited when Lindy Ruff got fired in 2013. We were patient and waited when we were told that Sam Reinhart and Jack Eichel are going to be the faces of the franchise and they were going to carry this team to glory. And Evander Kane, Ryan O'Reilly, Kyle Okposo, Robin Leonard, whoever else. We sat here and waited. And then that didn't pan out. We waited through Tim Murray trying to accelerate a rebuild and telling us that, we were going to have all this great success. And then that didn't pan out. We sat through Jason Botterill. Obviously, that didn't pan out. Because then they finished last in the league again. They get Rasmus Dahlin. They get Jeff Skinner. They win 10 games in a row in November of 2018. And we're thinking now they're going to turn the corner and be great again. And it didn't happen. And they bottom out again. I'm sorry, but I can't blame the fans for not wanting to come back to an organization that has done nothing but discard them and cast them aside for the last decade plus. I was at the game 2 weeks ago against the Dallas Stars when Eric Comrie allowed 10 goals. There were not a lot of Sabres fans in the building to begin with, and most all of them left by the time Dallas got to 6 or 7 or 8 goals. If there's a silver lining to it, it's that I've never gotten out of a Sabres game easier. It was like no traffic in the parking garage. And what I'm about to say could be taken as a slight towards the National Lacrosse League, and it is not meant as that in the Buffalo Bandits. But when the Bandits are selling way more tickets than the Sabres are, we have a problem. I mean, and that's not meant to be a slight towards the Bandits at all. But the Sabres, and people want to complain about, the fans aren't showing up. The fans aren't being loyal. Do you blame them? Do you blame the fans for saying, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore, after they've sat through 12 years of garbage? First of all, have you seen the prices of some of these tickets? You have any idea how much it would cost to take a family, even a family of like 3 or 4, a small family? You have any idea? I grew up in a family of 5. 2 older siblings and my parents, and then me. So you have any idea how expensive it's got to be to take, for example, like mine, a family of 5? How expensive it has to be to take a family to a Sabres game? Those tickets are not cheap. And then not to mention, you're also paying a significant amount for parking. All for a Thursday night game against the Dallas Stars where they're going to let in 10 goals. Again, I personally still believe that they're going to turn it around and be good. I believe that in my heart. I really do. But I can't say that I blame the fans who were hesitant, because I really don't. I don't blame them. And I wrote a few things down in my notes just about how I get it. We're on the cusp of something great, and I truly do believe that. But I can't blame the fans who are not as quick to believe it. I can't blame the fans who are saying, we've been told this same thing before, time and time again, and it's never worked out. So why should I believe in it now? I can't say I blame them. Their logic is sound. But the reason why, and this is really what I wanted to talk about, more than the game, more than losing 8 of 9, 4 in a row, more than any of that, I think that to somebody who doesn't watch sports, it's easy for them to feel like, well, your team's losing and it's causing you so much stress. Just stop watching the game. Just don't watch if it's causing you that much stress. Just stop being a fan or be a fan of a better team. Like, seriously, common sense. But there's a reason why we can't do that. And the reason why many Sabres fans, myself included, just can't drop it all together is because the Sabres are not just, and I know how cliche this is going to sound, but the Sabres are not just a hockey team to so many of us. As ridiculous as it sounds, they really are a way of life in Buffalo and in all of Western New York. You know, they're a part of our lives. We can't just quit on them, because we know that someday, whether that's next year, whether that's 5 years from now, whether that's 20 years from now, we know that someday the Sabres will be good again. And all of this, all of the waiting, all of the losing, all of the frustration, it will all have been worth it, because we will know in our hearts that we stayed loyal when things weren't good. So now the good times feel even sweeter, because we know how good it feels to have success. So give you a little backstory. I'm a freshman at Fredonia. I'm 18 years old. I was not around to see a lot of the successful days of the Buffalo Sabres. You know, when back in the day when guys like Chris Drury and Danny Briere and all them back in, you know, those 2006 and 2007 playoff runs where they went to the conference finals 2 years in a row, or even all the way back to 1999 when they went to the Stanley Cup finals. I obviously was too young to really experience that. I mean, I wasn't even born in 1999. And in 06 and 07, I was too young. I wasn't really watching sports yet. So I could not obviously grasp that. I couldn't really understand what that was like. I got into hockey, I think right around 2009, if I had to guess, around 2010. I want to say I was in kindergarten, because that was the year that the Sabres won their division and Ryan Miller won the Vezina. I remember them being in the playoffs very vaguely, but those memories have started to fade big time. I mean, that's if you're looking for the hilarity and ridiculousness of this drought, look no further than the fact that I'm a college freshman. The last time the Buffalo Sabres were in the playoffs, I was in first grade. That is 100% true. The last time the Buffalo Sabres were in the playoffs, I was in first grade. And now I'm a college freshman. Like, that is, I could barely walk and talk at the same time the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs. And now, like, that just shows how long it's been and how ridiculously drawn out this nonsense has been for so long. I mean, like I said earlier, they are more than just a hockey team to us. I mean, I can remember being a little kid and watching, you know, Ryan Miller in goal for the Sabres. I can remember watching guys like Thomas Vanek, Jason Pominville. On a, you know, maybe less great note, you know, players like Tyler Ennis or Nathan Gerby Gerby was a favorite of my mom's too. I loved Gerby, but like, I remember watching these guys and falling in love with hockey and the Sabres at a young age. And it's been brutally painful for many years. It's been bad. But again, we can't just walk away from our team because they mean far too much to us. And that's something that I think that people who don't really follow sports, I don't know if they can fully understand. And that's not a slight to anybody who doesn't follow sports. If you're not into sports, I totally get it. If you're not like into sports and listening to this show, I am a little bit curious. Glad to have you, but a little curious. But people who aren't really big sports fans, they might not be able to like kind of fully understand just the connection that we build to our teams. Because, and if you're a diehard sports fan, you know what I'm talking about. Like, we resonate with our teams. It has an impact on us, win or lose. I mean, I know personally in the fall, when the Bills win on Sunday, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to take on the week. Let's do this. When the Bills lose on Sunday, I don't want to do anything on Monday except lay in my bed and eat goldfish and watch highlights of old games where they won. Like, it has an impact. And Sabres games, like I talked about, I don't know how many times it's been this season where the Sabres play on Tuesday night, and I go into the game, I'm like, Buffalo, please just win so I can, like, be happy about hockey when I go on the air tomorrow. And I literally think every time they've lost. They've had so many embarrassing losses the night before this show. Like the home losses to Columbus and Toronto and last night. Like, oh my gosh, can you stop losing on Tuesday nights so I can be a little bit happier for the Big Blue Sports Podcast on Wednesdays? I would greatly appreciate it. So, to top it all off, the Sabres have lost 8 of 9, 4 in a row. Chances for the playoffs this year are not really looking great. Not really looking the best. They're back in action tomorrow night at home against the Seattle Kraken, a team that they have not had success against this year. Or that's the Predators. I was going to say, I didn't think, okay, I was looking at the Predators. I apologize for that. I'm trying to look at the Sabres. I looked at that and I was like, I didn't think we were playing Seattle this week. What are you talking about? Yes, Friday night against the Devils. I knew it was Thursday or Friday. I saw it was Seattle. I was like, what? So, Sabres and Devils, Friday night. Lindy Ruff makes his return to Buffalo. The Devils are 26-5-4 on the road this year. Oh, boy. Friday night could be... That Friday night might not be too fun, but it's okay. The Sabres goaltenders will be able to make a save. None of them have a goals against average below 3, which for anybody who doesn't really follow like hockey super closely, if you have a goals against average of 3 or higher, that's like really not good. And all 3 of Buffalo's goaltenders have a goals against average of higher than 3. It's typically like if your goals against average is below, I'll say like 2.9-ish. If it's below that, that's usually solid. And if you have a save percentage above 900, that's usually decent. Craig Anderson has a goals against average of 3.07. That's not good. And his save percentage is 908, which is actually not horrible. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, oh boy. Goals against average, 3.62. That's atrociously bad. And his save percentage is 891, which is also horrible. But Eric Comrie's is somehow worse. Eric Comrie's goals against average is 3.95. You're allowing almost 4 goals a game. And his save percentage is 877. Buffalo's goaltending has been mind-bogglingly bad this season. Some guys have had some good games. I was at the game in December when Craig Anderson had a shutout. That was awesome. But it's been really bad for most of the season. Anyways, I wanted to hit the Sabres in the middle of the show because I knew that if I ended with the Sabres, I would get going and I would get too fired up, and I needed to just definitely not do that. So I'm going to take a quick break and cool off from talking about the Sabres. And then when I come back, it's all March Madness. I am so excited to break down how hilariously bad my bracket was. And then let's see if I can get some decent points on the tournament challenge. I am so ready for both of my men's and women's tournament challenge brackets to be hilariously wrong by like Sunday afternoon. But anyways, thanks for tuning in and thanks for listening to me on the Big Blue Sports Podcast. Definitely means a lot to have you here. Take just a short break and then be back to talk some March Madness. Thanks for tuning in today, everybody.
Severed ties, believing you were free. A balloon so high, its rupture won't be seen. The space between your hands was all you knew. Where the solitude you wanted only grew. Here now above the throne, canyon in the night. Free to roam, but only out of sight. We're driving through those woods between the lakes, where your laughter once concealed what you would take. He's still above the throne. He's still above the throne. Beyond the edges of our sight, and the only sound that's ever on your mind, the shifting sands beneath your feet, where the moon slips out and dances on the sea, tracing your lines in the sand. The silence of the everlasting flame flickers in the darkness of your eyes. These echoes in the caverns of your mind, you can hear, searching for a place of endless quiet. He's still above the throne. You can feel the final breath you'll take before the plunge. Here too above the throne, you can see a hand that plants a seed you hope will grow. Tremors underneath your chest, beating time to gestures of the figures in your dust. A solitude that's truly free, your reflection in the mirror of the sea, tracing your lines in the sand. Tracing your line.
So if you're like me, your NCAA tournament bracket probably did not go so well. And yeah, once again, this year, my tournament bracket did not pan out. And although my men's bracket is not technically busted yet because my national champion is still in it, go Houston, but my women's bracket is gone. I had Indiana winning it, and the Miami Hurricanes ended my bracket, and I cannot believe it. So let's take a look at how some of the games shook out. Of course, everyone kind of knows what the big upsets were. 15 seed Princeton going to the Sweet 16. Who in the world would have predicted that? And then, of course, some other teams in it as well. So in the first round games, the first 4 games back on March 14th and 15th, Texas A&M Corpus Christi defeated Southeast Missouri State 75-71 for the 16 seed in the South region, and Pitt defeated Mississippi State 60-59 for the 11 seed in the Midwest. And then on the second day, Arizona State hammered Nevada 98-73 for the 11 seed in the West region. And Fairleigh Dickinson defeated Texas Southern 84-61 for the 16 seed in the East region. And we'll come back to that in a second, and everybody knows why. So in the first round games in the South region, top seed Alabama defeated 16 seed Texas A&M Corpus Christi 96-75. 8 seed Maryland over 9 seed West Virginia 67-65. 5 seed San Diego State defeated 12 seed Charleston 63-57. The big upset in that, well, no, not even the biggest upset, but a very big upset. 13 seed Furman after a 3 with like 2 seconds left. Which story about that? 13 seed Furman defeated 4 seed Virginia 68-67. So the story, that the day of the Virginia Furman game, which was last Thursday, this is a 100% true story. I was driving home from a dentist appointment, and I had the game, I had like the audio of the game playing in the car. So it was like, I was looking at the road because I was driving, but I had the sound from the TV broadcast of the game coming through the car. And I was driving when Furman got that steal and then hit the 3 to take the lead. And all I heard, because they didn't actually say what happened, all I heard was everybody just going nuts and Kevin Harlan saying, "Furman leads. Did we just see what I think we just saw?" And I literally yelled, "No, I didn't see it because I'm driving, Kevin." I could not, like, I was thinking about, because I didn't even know what the score was. I was thinking about what might have just happened, because they didn't even say it was a steal and a 3 or whatever. So I'm like, okay, like, I didn't even think Furman had the ball. Must be Virginia turned it over or something, or like Furman somehow scored a basket. Like, I had no idea what was going on until I got home and looked at my phone, because the game was over by the time I got home. And then I looked at my phone when I parked in the driveway, and I watched the play, and I was like, wow, that's a heck of a play to miss because I was driving. But anyways, also in that region, 6 seed Creighton over 11 seed NC State 72-63. 3 seed Baylor over 14 seed UCSB 74-56. 7 seed Missouri beating 10 seed Utah State 76-65. Did anybody see in that game there was a cheerleader for Utah State? I felt so bad. The camera like focused in on her, and this poor cheerleader was just like sitting there trying desperately to hold back tears. And I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, can we please get the camera away from her? I feel horrible. That's the agonizing defeat that we know all too well in sports. All too well, Taylor Swift reference. And then also in that, sorry, I love Taylor Swift. In that region, 15 seed Princeton pulling off what we thought was going to be the biggest upset of the tournament, beating 2 seed Arizona 59-55. I had Arizona in my Final Four, so obviously that didn't end too well for me. In the Midwest region, top seed Houston struggled a little early, but ended up pulling away to beat 16 seed Northern Kentucky 63-52. Number 9 Auburn over 8 seed Iowa 83-75. War Eagle. I'm an Auburn fan, as you all know. Hopefully. 5 seed Miami over 12 seed Drake 63-56. Again, I noticed that like almost all of these games were very close. There were a lot of upsets. There were also a lot of almost upsets. 4 seed Indiana over 13 seed Kent State 71-60. 11 seed Pitt beating 6 seed, pulling off the upset and beating 6 seed Iowa State 59-41. 3 seed Xavier comes back and beats 14 seed Kennesaw State 72-67. 10 seed Penn State dominates and beats 7 seed Texas A&M 76-59, and 2 seed Texas over 15 seed Colgate 81-61. In the East region, this was the biggest upset of the tournament so far. 16 seed Fairleigh Dickinson beats number 1 seed Purdue 63-58 for the second time in the history of the men's tournament and the third time in the history of men's and women's, a 16 seed defeated a number 1. And this time I was a little happier because it wasn't my national champion losing this time. And it's just interesting. You look at that game. Purdue has Zach Edey as their big man, who's like the tallest guy in college basketball. Guy's like 7'4". And then Fairleigh Dickinson is literally, by average, they were the shortest team of, like, they had the shortest average height of any team in the tournament, and they beat Purdue. Elsewhere in that region, 9 seed Florida Atlantic over 8 seed Memphis 66-65, 5 seed Duke over 12 seed Oral Roberts 74-51, 4 seed Tennessee survives and beats 13 seed Louisiana 58-55. 6 seed Kentucky over 11 seed Providence 61-53. 3 seed Kansas State over 14 seed Montana State 77-65. 7 seed Michigan State over 10 seed USC 72-62. And 2 seed Marquette over 15 seed Vermont 78-61. In the West region, number 1 Kansas beating 16 seed Howard 96-68. 8 seed Arkansas over 9 seed Illinois 73-63. 5 seed St. Mary's over 12 seed VCU 63-51. 4 seed UConn over 13 seed Iona 87-63. 6 seed TCU over 11 seed Arizona State 72-70. 3 seed Gonzaga over 14 seed Grand Canyon 82-70. 7 seed Northwestern beat 10 seed Boise State 75-67. And 2 seed UCLA beating 15 seed UNC Asheville 86-53. In the round of 32 in the South region, top seed Alabama rolls to the Sweet 16, defeating 8 seed Maryland 73-51. 5 seed San Diego State ends the Paladins' dream run, beating 13 seed Furman 75-52. 6 seed Creighton pulls off the upset and beats 3 seed Baylor 85-76. And the 15 seed Princeton Tigers just keep on rolling as they beat 7 seed Missouri 78-63. In the East region, Florida Atlantic ends Fairleigh Dickinson's Cinderella run, winning 78-70. And 4 seed Tennessee over 5 seed Duke 65-52. 3 seed Kansas State advances to the Sweet 16 with a 75-69 win over 6 seed Kentucky. And 7 seed Michigan State pulls off the upset, beating 2 seed Marquette 69-60. And there goes another one of my Final Four teams. In the Midwest region, number 1 Houston beating number 9 Auburn 81-64. 5 seed Miami over 4 seed Indiana 85-69. 3 seed Xavier over 11 seed Pitt 84-73. And 2 seed Texas survives and beats 10 seed Penn State 71-66. In the West region, number 8 seed Arkansas pulls off the upset, beating top seed Kansas and last year's defending champion Jayhawks 72-71. There goes another one of my Final Four teams. 4 seed UConn over 5 seed St. Mary's 70-55. 3 seed Gonzaga beats 6 seed TCU 84-81. And 2 seed UCLA over 7 seed Northwestern 68-63. In the women's bracket, the play-in games, and I apologize if I'm flying. I really want to get to the second chance picks. Mississippi State over Illinois 70-56 for the 11 seed in the Greenville 1 region. Tennessee Tech over Monmouth 79-69 for the 16 seed in the Greenville 2 region. St. John's over Purdue 66-64 for the 11 seed in the Seattle 3 region. And Sacred Heart over Southern 57-47 for the 16 seed in the Seattle 4 region. In the Seattle, or not the Seattle one, rather, the Greenville 1 region, top seed and undefeated South Carolina beats 16 seed Norfolk State 72-40. 8 seed South Florida outlasts 9 seed Marquette 67-65 in overtime. 5 seed Oklahoma over 12 seed Portland 85-63. 4 seed UCLA over 13 seed Sacramento State 67-45. 11 seed Mississippi State pulls off the upset, beating 6 seed Creighton 81-66. 3 seed Notre Dame over 14 seed Southern Utah 82-56. 7 seed Arizona over 10 seed West Virginia 75-62. And 2 seed Maryland beating 15 seed Holy Cross 93-61. In the Greenville 2 region, top seed Indiana beats 16 seed Tennessee Tech 77-47. 9 seed Miami over 8 seed Oklahoma State 62-61. 12 seed FGCU pulls off the upset, beating 5 seed Washington State 74-63. 4 seed Villanova over 13 seed Cleveland State 76-59. 6 seed Michigan beats 11 seed UNLV 71-59. 3 seed LSU over 14 seed Hawaii 73-50. 10 seed Princeton pulls off the upset, beating 7 seed NC State 64-63. Princeton's having a heck of a year for basketball. And 2 seed Utah over 15 seed Gardner-Webb 103-77. In the Seattle 3 region, Virginia Tech, the top seed, beating 16 seed Chattanooga 58-33. 9 seed South Dakota State beats 8 seed USC 62-57 in overtime. 12 seed Toledo pulls off the upset, beating 5 seed Iowa State 80-73. 4 seed Tennessee over 13 seed St. Louis 95-50. 6 seed UNC beats 11 seed St. John 61-59. 3 seed Ohio State over 14 seed James Madison 80-66. 7 seed Baylor over 10 seed Alabama 78-74. And 2 seed UConn over 15 seed Vermont 95-52. In the Seattle 4 region, the top seed Stanford beating 16 seed Sacred Heart 92-49. 8 seed Ole Miss over 9 seed Gonzaga 71-48. 5 seed Louisville over 12 seed Drake 83-81. 4 seed Texas beating 13 seed East Carolina 79-40. 6 seed Colorado over 11 seed Middle Tennessee State 82-60. 3 seed Duke over 14 seed Iona 89-49. 10 seed Georgia pulls off the upset, beating 7 seed Florida State 66-54. And 2 seed Iowa beats 15 seed Southeast Louisiana 95-43. In the round of 32, the Greenville 1 region, top seed South Carolina moves on, beating 8 seed South Florida 76-45. 4 seed UCLA over 5 seed Oklahoma 82-73. 3 seed Notre Dame over 11 seed Mississippi State 53-48. And 2 seed Maryland beating 7 seed Arizona 77-64. In the Greenville 2 region, 9 seed Miami knocks out my national champion pick, number 1 seed Indiana 70-68. 4 seed Villanova over 12 seed FGCU 76-57. 3 seed LSU over 6 seed Michigan 66-42. And 2 seed Utah over 10 seed Princeton 63-56. In the Seattle 3 region, top seed Virginia Tech over 9 seed South Dakota State 72-60. 4 seed Tennessee over 12 seed Toledo 94-47. 3 seed Ohio State over 6 seed North Carolina 71-69. And 2 seed UConn over 7 seed Baylor 77-58. In the Seattle 4 region, 8 seed Ole Miss knocks out top seed Stanford 54-49. 5 seed Louisville over 4 seed Texas 73-51. 6 seed Colorado beats 3 seed Duke 61-53 in overtime. And 2 seed Iowa beats 10 seed Georgia 74-66. Whew. Rolled through that one a little bit quickly. But it's because I wanted to get to this. The Tournament Challenge Second Chance Bracket. Hopefully, I will do a little bit better at this than I did in the actual bracket, but honestly, I doubt that very much. We'll start with the men's bracket. In the South region, Alabama versus San Diego State. As an Auburn fan, it slightly pains me to do this, but I have to pick Alabama. They look really good. They're going to keep rolling. 6 seed Creighton against 15 seed Princeton. You know what? Why not? I'm picking Princeton. Because why not? 4 seed in the East region, 4 seed Tennessee against 9 seed Florida Atlantic. I'm going to take Tennessee in that one. I think they're looking good. And 3 seed Kansas State over 7 seed Michigan State. I think Michigan State's on a roll, and I think they actually beat K-State in this game. In the Midwest region, top seed Houston against 5 seed Miami. Got to go with my national champion pick, the Cougars. And 2 seed Texas against 3 seed Xavier. I'm going to go with Texas to win that one. I think Texas also looks really good. In the West region, 4 seed UConn against 8 seed Arkansas. I'm going to take Arkansas to win it. I think they're also on a roll. And then 2 seed UCLA against 3 seed Gonzaga, the rematch of the 2021 Final Four matchup. This one's a tough call. I could see this one going either way. I'm going to pick UCLA to win it. So then Alabama versus Princeton in the South region. I got to pick Alabama to end that run. Tennessee versus Michigan State. I'm going to take Tennessee. Houston versus Texas. I'm actually going to take the Longhorns in that one. And then Arkansas versus UCLA. I'll take UCLA. So my final 4, Alabama versus Tennessee, Texas versus UCLA. I think Tennessee beats Alabama, Texas over UCLA, Tennessee versus Texas in the national championship, and the Texas Longhorns are going to be my pick. In the women's bracket for the tournament challenge, let's see here. So, to get started, if my bracket will load properly, hopefully it will. There we go. No, that's the men's bracket. Why is it on the men's bracket? That's a wonderful question. So, in the women's bracket, the first matchup, South Carolina against UCLA. This one's a tough one, too, because I think UCLA is looking pretty good. I'm going to pick South Carolina. They're undefeated. They look good. And then Maryland versus Notre Dame. Again, another tough call. I'm going to go with Maryland to win that one. In the Greenville 2 region, Villanova, 4 seed against 9 seed Miami. I'm going to pick Villanova to win that one. And then 2 seed Utah against 3 seed LSU. That one's also a tough call. A lot of tough calls. I'm going to go LSU in that one. So we've got South Carolina versus Maryland in the Greenville 1. In the Greenville 2, we've got Villanova against LSU, right? Yes. Yeah, Villanova against LSU. And then in the Seattle 4 region, Ole Miss, an 8 seed versus 5 seed Louisville. I'm going to take Louisville to win that one. And 2 seed Iowa versus 6 seed Colorado. I'll take Iowa to win that one. So that'll be Louisville versus Iowa in the Seattle 4. Seattle 3, Virginia Tech versus Tennessee. I think Tennessee pulls off the upset. I'm going to pick Tennessee to win that one and move on. And then 2 seed UConn against 3 seed Ohio State. I'm going to pick UConn to win that one. So my regional final picks now, the Greenville 1 region, South Carolina versus Maryland. I think South Carolina keeps their undefeated season alive. They go to the Final Four. 3 seed LSU versus 4 seed Villanova. LSU is absolutely rolling right now, in my opinion. I think LSU goes to the Final Four. In the Seattle 3, Tennessee, a 4 seed versus 2 seed UConn. The Huskies once again flex their muscles. UConn goes to the Final Four. And then 5 seed Louisville against 2 seed Iowa. I also think Iowa's on a roll. They go to the Final Four. So the Final Four matchups, South Carolina versus Iowa and LSU versus UConn. I think South Carolina beats Iowa to advance to the national championship game. And then on the other half of the bracket, Tennessee versus UConn. I got to pick UConn. I have to pick UConn. So the national championship, in my opinion, will be South Carolina versus UConn. And it's interesting. I don't want to be like that casual fan that literally always picks UConn to win the women's tournament. I mean, they win it most years, but I don't know. I have a personal rule with myself. I never, if there's a team that is undefeated, I never pick them to win it all. That was my rule with Kentucky back in 2015. Yeah, 2015. And one of the years that UConn was unbeaten in the women's tournament, I also didn't pick them, and I was right both times. I don't think South Carolina is going to finish undefeated. I think the UConn Huskies end up winning. I think the UConn Huskies end up winning it all. They play this Saturday, I believe Saturday, right? Yes, they play this Saturday at 4 o'clock on ABC, UConn versus Ohio State. Now watch my prediction be completely and hilariously wrong within the next couple of days. Honestly, with how my March Madness brackets usually go, I don't know if I'd be 100% surprised by that. Anyways, that'll do it for this afternoon's show of the Big Blue Sports Podcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in week after week, as well as everybody at Fredonia Radio Systems and WCVF who makes this show possible. Next week, when we come back on, I'll talk more about the Buffalo Sabres, as well as recapping the NCAA tournament to that point, and hit you with plenty more sports facts and fun little bits of knowledge that, well, you might tune into the show just to hear that. Anyways, I appreciate everybody tuning in to the Big Blue Sports Podcast this week. All Things Considered, presented by NPR, is next. Thanks for tuning in on 88.9, the campus and community voice of Fredonia.